Leading up to Scream 5, I watched every single Scream movie for the first time, and I fell in love with this franchise. It's so creative and witty and meta as in self-aware, not powered by Mark Zuckerberg. But I will say, after watching these movies and falling in love with this franchise, I went into Scream 5 very nervous because it's not the same director, it's not the same writer, and after watching the film, I was very mixed on it. But after some time has passed, I've really come around to this film. Is it my favorite one? No, but I really did like it. But the thing that stuck out to me the most, it wasn't just the killer reveal. It wasn't just him taking off the mask. Oh, spoilers. It instead was the killer's motivation, the desire, the reason he was doing what he was doing. And I was shocked how it beautifully exposed corrupt movie culture and fandoms. Star Wars. Sorry, something in my throat. Star Wars! And on that drive home, and as I went to sleep that night, I kept on thinking about how much I loved the motivation for this film. And as reactions and reviews for this film started to pour out, I began to realize that this film was so brilliant and ahead of the game with this motivation that said so much about our society and our current movie culture right now, which is what Scream was always trying to achieve. So today I'm going to dive into how Scream 5 exposes Disney Star Wars hate culture and also our toxic movie fandom in a brilliant way.
This isn't funny, Amber.
Would you like to play a game, Tara?
So throughout Scream 5, they begin cracking a lot of jokes that this movie is a requel. Not to be confused with the critically acclaimed Alvin and the Chipmunks sequel, the Squeakquel. That is a different thing. I just thought I should let you guys know that. And that means that this film is a reboot, but at the same time, it's also a sequel. So it's also bringing in legacy characters to make sure they honor the fans. And the granddaughter of Randy goes on this big rant about it, and it's so hilarious. And as a movie lover, I understand exactly what she's saying. She is saying so many true things, like lover or hater, she spins some straight facts. Now she does say your typical basic stuff like, ooh, Hollywood has ran out of ideas, we're just making sequels. Okay, that film doesn't count, that's cinema. And if you don't know, the Stab franchise is like this running joke in the Scream movies. It's basically like, it's like movies about the things that are happening in the Scream movies inside of the Scream movies. Catch up on the lore, okay? But she says that the Stab franchise really went off the rails around Stab 5, which is funny because they actually said the same thing 10 years earlier in Scream 4. Throughout this movie, though, they just keep on teasing and teasing how this franchise has just gotten worse and worse and worse. And they even play this comical clip from Stab 8 where he has a steel mask and a sleeveless hoodie. Like, what is the opening kill of that film? Does he kill a Hot Topic employee? But then they threw out this one line that really caught my attention. Do you see what I did with the hand motions there? That was cool. But they said that everybody just universally hated Stab 8. And one of them said, oh, isn't that the one directed by the Knives Out guy? And I was like, oh, I get what they're saying. Rian Johnson is the director of Knives Out, and also Star Wars 8. Like Stab 8 and Knives Out. You see what they did there? Just like my hand motion. You see what I did? Throw, catch. Let's move on. Now, if you've been on the internet for the past few years, which I'm going to guess you are because you're actually on the internet right now, you definitely know about the Last Jedi hate culture. Let's just say that people had thoughts about that film. Particularly negative ones. I just realized there's a huge missed opportunity. I didn't put any, Star Wars decorations up in my set, and I'm talking a little bit about Star Wars. So we're gonna set that right there. We'll throw in a porg. Who's gonna stop me? I'll throw in a porg. Hey look, J.J. Abrams, another divisive Star Wars director, he can go right there. Oh, and then we got this dude, he's carrying a little baby. Yeah, we'll put him right there. Oh, and then everyone's favorite character, Captain Phasma. I'm glad that as divisive as Star Wars is, everyone loves Captain Phasma. And then everyone's actual favorite Star Wars character, Hundo! Get out of here, Captain America. But that film erupted maybe the most internet hate for any movie ever? And it really lit the spark that ended up burning down the entire Disney Star Wars order. That's a Last Jedi reference. But let's go ahead and talk about exactly what the killer says when he goes on his motivation rant. And he says that they are just so frustrated by how big studios are taking our favorite movie franchises and running them into the dirt. And he yells about how they don't understand that these movies are important to us. These are our childhood, and they are ruining them. Huh. That sounds familiar. So they decided to restart this killing cycle just to give them some good source material by bringing in new characters, but also legacy characters, and even having a big finale at Stu's house like the original, just to help get these stab films back to basics. And they even say that they had to kill off Dewey because they needed to show that this was no cash grab. It had real stakes. And as they went on this evil rant, my mind was like blown, because it was like the writers just hit the nail right on the head. Or, to put it in Scream terms, it's like the knife went right into that cop's forehead. Get it? It went into his forehead. Get it? It went into his forehead? Because it's like, cause like, it's from Scream 4, like forehead. Yeah, I'm pretty meta too. This movie is honestly less of a horror movie parody and more of a Star Wars and movie culture commentary. And I loved that. This movie is like literally a Star Wars parody, okay? It's like Spaceballs, except like Screenballs.
Hello, Sydney. It's an honor.
Oh, crap. No, this happens every time. Every time I try to draw my whiteboard now, it falls. It's getting so predictable, and I don't even plan this. But I'm just saying, if you need a title for Scream 6, Screamballs? That's a good one. And you may think I'm crazy for comparing this film so much to Star Wars, but I'm 100% certain that's what they're going for, okay? Because in this film, there's not just references to Star Wars, there's like exact parallels. First off, you have the old man legacy character dying by getting stabbed through.
My son.
Then you have Leia being sad about Han, like Gale, and then you have a ton of characters who are the granddaughters of the legacy characters. For instance, Rey is a Palpatine and Sam is a Loomis. Both of them are granddaughters of the big evil villains of their own franchises. It's literally Screamballs. And you even have the hated 8th film that turned the people against the franchise. You got Stab 8 and also Star Wars 8 that did the same thing. Honestly, this is such a clever parallel that I never would have thought of. And also, with this brand new Star Wars trilogy, there's been so many people saying like, oh, the legacy characters are here to pass the torch to the next set of characters, you know? You got Luke, Han, and Leia to pass the torch to Rey and Finn and Poe. And then in this movie, they have the guts, or the balls, to literally go, okay, fine, you can have the torch, and then they light the new character on fire. It was honestly just such creative writing and wordplay, and it just, I don't know. It was awesome. But now let's dive even deeper into the motivation. And how nowadays we see so much of toxic fandom. And he even has a great quote where he says, how can fandoms be toxic? It's about love. And that's why I'm here to say all of y'all should just come over to the Playing with Fire fandom, okay? It is strictly only pure positivity. But we see this kind of culture for so many movies nowadays. Except for Playing with Fire. And I understand they're not just poking at Star Wars, but I feel it especially relates to Star Wars. Mainly that being Rian Johnson's Last Jedi, because the reaction to that film on social media was just insane. People were just rioting about how it ruined their childhood. And they even sent Rian Johnson death threats. What? Yet, those same phones that probably sent him death threats 2 years later were probably posting, I just saw Knives Out and it was real cinema. You guys wouldn't understand. But see, I think these directors understand internet fandom and culture so well because they actually started out on YouTube. Before becoming filmmakers, the directing pair were YouTubers, which is so awesome because I'm trying to transition from YouTube to filmmaking one day, once I'm good enough. I'm working on it. So because they came from this background, I think it gave them this understanding of this internet fandom culture, which has now become so toxic. And I think we view this understanding throughout the entire movie, but a great example of it is when one of the characters sits down and watches a YouTube review of Stab 8, and the guy in the video is like, "This movie is objectively a bad film. Bad filmmaking, such a bad movie, bad movie." And that was so accurate, and it just showed me how in touch these guys were with the internet. And I understood it because I'm also on the internet in this movie culture. I'm actually on the internet right now. And throughout the Scream franchise, we have gotten some killer motivations. That's a joke. But honestly, I'm just impressed that by the fifth one, they're still writing clever motives into their writing. It's so inspiring, almost. Now, at first, I didn't know if I liked this movie, because honestly, Dewey dying was kind of infuriating. I loved that guy, and I wasn't sure about them doing the finale again at Stu's house, because that kind of felt redundant. But quick side note, though, I did actually grow to like how they ended the movie at Stu's house, because it reminded me of, oh wait, in Halloween Kills, which is a movie I didn't like, they also ended the movie at the original house and did the whole returning to the original place thing. And so the fact that Scream, a parody of horror movies, actually parodied that before that movie even came out, I was like, man, Scream is always just so ahead of the game. So I did actually grow to like that. And also the killer reveal was just kind of fine. It wasn't too shocking. But once the motivation was revealed, that's when I was like, wait a minute. They're, once again, ahead of me. They know that I'm going to be mad. They're ahead of the game. And if you look at the reactions to this film, they're super mixed. And some people absolutely hate it and are saying it's ruining the Scream franchise. But this movie is like, no, that's the point. Once again, Scream is so on top of things. Like, the Scream franchise is genuinely, I think, the most brilliant franchise in horror. So honestly, I can't really dislike this film because they know that I'm going to dislike the parts that they made to make me dislike the parts. And it really does feel like that expertly crafted, clever meta-ness from Wes Craven and Kevin, even if neither of them were attached. Overall, I've really grown to like Scream 5. It's definitely not my favorite one, and there's still definitely things that I don't like about it. But honestly, that message and motivation was so clever. And I think it's super interesting how this film comments on this toxic culture that seems to have erupted from this franchise right here. I mean, in this movie, the killer is basically just like an angry Last Jedi fanboy YouTuber who just happened to have a knife. But I just thought that the Scream Star Wars culture parallel was just so... I'm trying to think of more adjectives other than smart, brilliant, astonishing. I don't think I've said that yet. I am sorry if this video is super rambly, okay? Because I know it is rambly. I just had to get this stuff off my chest. Thank you guys so much for watching, and especially since you guys watched to the end, I thank you. High five. If you've never seen my channel before, I make comedic videos about movies and TV shows, and if this video does well, I would be glad to make more Scream content. So please, if you enjoyed, give the video a like, and that's all for now. I'll see you guys in the next video. Subscribe to support the vision. I'll see ya.